Welcome to yet another episode of the Servoy Tech Webinars. And today with me is Sean Devlin, and my name is Jan Edelman. I'm one of the founders of Servoy, and welcome everybody. Feel free to post any questions that you have in the questions channel. I'll be keeping a close eye on it during and after this session. Today, a topic that has been available a very long time in Servoy. I believe even the very first version of Servoy 18 years ago already had PDF support. But today we're going to be digging into a couple of the PDF options you have nowadays in Servoy. So it's a bit of a recap, but also a couple of new things that Sean will be talking about. Quite some content to cover. So take it away, Sean.
Okay, thanks, Jan. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, this is episode number 64 in our running bi-weekly series, all about PDF integrations. And as Jan said, there is a lot of material which has been available in Servoy for quite some time. And when we were looking at our webinar archives, we realized that this one we haven't done a topic on yet, and there were some new developments in the world of PDF integration recently, so I think it was a good opportunity to create a webinar about this topic. So as usual, I'm going to do a few demos, and then if you feel like sticking around, we'll do a quick overview after the demos and see, summarize what we've seen. And of course, you have the chance to ask questions, and we do the live question and answer session at the end. So please type your questions into the chat window as they occur to you. And finally, I will talk a bit about Servoy World at the very end of the webinar. So with that out of the way, let's jump into the first example where we're going to look at combining PDFs. I'm going to launch my debug client from the Servoy developer. Now in this example, what I'm going to do is upload a few PDF documents and then programmatically combine them. So I'm going to use the upload component. By the way, if you're interested in how to upload documents, there are a few different ways, and that was covered in the last webinar, so check out our archives for that. So clicking here, I get a filtered list of documents. I'm going to just grab a document. It's a utility bill. You can see that I get a thumbnail preview of the document over here, but I'd like to grab, let's grab one more. And now you can see as I click between these documents, I get a preview of both of them on the thumbnail images. So finally, I'll get one more bill here, put it up there. So now I have 3 documents, and what I'd like to do is combine them. So I click combine, and you can see that I have an embedded preview of all 3 documents. So more than 3 pages, but a few bills there that I combined into a single document, and I previewed them on the screen. So let's go ahead into the IDE and take a look at how that was done. So what I've done here is I've uploaded those documents and sort of stored them into an in-memory data source. That's not the part we want to focus on. I want to focus on where I iterate over the documents and combine them and then show them in a preview. So that's this method right here, combine PDFs. And you can see that I'm just iterating over a found set, which is the sort of in-memory data source of Servoy. And I'm creating an array of those documents. And then I call this one method here, combine PDF documents. And it returns the combined PDF as a byte array. And then I show this on a preview. Now what I've done is I've created a form here called PDF preview. I'll open it in the form editor for you. This form was quite simple. I just dragged one component on there from my palette. So right here, the Servoy PDF preview component. This is available through the Web Package Manager or the Servoy Package Manager. If you right-click Servoy Packages, download and install, this will come up and load a page of extensions that you can add, and there's the PDF viewer right there. So that's how I put that on that form. And then there is a method. I'm going to open this in the script editor, where you just set the document URL. So I passed in the URL. There were some things I did to generate the URL on the server, but the point is that this previewer can just basically, you can set it to any URL. So it could be relative to your own web application, or it could be some third-party URL. That part is up to you. And then I navigated to that form, but I don't think that's important to go over for this demo. What is important to know is there's a standard PDF previewer component. So, and there's also this PDF output plugin. I combine those documents and into a single document. I put it out on my web server, and then I directed that component to show it. And you can see that it just navigated to the previewer. And if I navigate back, I could delete one of these and do it again and see a preview with just the two documents in it. So that is combining documents. The next example that I wanted to show is how to convert fill-in forms. So fill-in forms are a type of PDF where you can type in and fill it in and then print it. So typically these will be standardized bureaucratic forms from governments or hospitals or big institutions that are required for certain business processes. And we see this time and again in business applications where a system's got to integrate with some third-party vendor or report to the government or something like that, and they have to do it by these standardized forms. But you want to do that and merge a bunch of data in, and you don't want to do that by hand, certainly. So in this example, I'll show how to automate that. So I come over here to my convert PDF form example. And what I've done is I'm just using the sample data here, looking at orders, and I'm going to search for some orders, and then I'm going to merge all the data in and generate the forms. But before I do that, what I want to do is show you the form that I created. So I'm going to jump in here to my downloads, and I think it was called customer fill-in, no, orders fill-in. So this is just a sort of dummy form that I made. Is the kind of thing where you can just type in and tab through the fields. But of course, we don't want to do that as an end user. We want to do it automatically. So what I'm going to do is programmatically fill this form with data. So back to our example, I have 830 matching records. That's a bit much, so let's winnow it down. Let's look for all orders that shipped to Germany and maybe had coffee. And I get 4 orders here. So what I want to do is merge 4 records, each record, and then combine them into a single document. So I want a document that has basically 4 copies, one for each record. We'll come back to these options here, but for now I'm just going to do fill in the forms. So now what you can see is that for those records, the form was filled in with the order information. I don't know, pretend this is some required form that I have to send somewhere for reporting. So I've programmatically filled it out. The records here are different, and there should be 4 pages. You'll also notice that the pages are numbered as well. So 4 out of 4 pages there. Another option that I had here was to include, say, a watermark image. So I'll do the same thing. And now you can see that I've put a sort of a stamp over top of it to say this is a giraffe. And that's an image that I had included in my project, and I'll show you how I added that. Alternatively, suppose you don't have an image, but you want to put something over here. Let's say that I had here preview before. So here I'm stamping it with a text preview. So you can do an overlay image or overlay text. So I'll go back to the Servoy developer and show you how that was done. In this case, what I've done here is when I call this method convert PDF, I'm going to iterate over the records in the found set, and I'm going to fill the form. So I jump into the subroutine and fill the form. So that's down here, and the way that works is really you take name value pairs, and you take your original PDF, the one you want to fill in, and then you say, take these name value pairs and fill it in with a PDF. So a PDF form field sort of encoded in the document has the name of those fields. And so you kind of need to know that. You can do that by inspecting the document in your browser or some other tool like Adobe Acrobat. But since I created it, I knew the names and I made them kind of similar to the names in my database. So it's an array of these sort of string name value pairs. What I also did is I got the document. It was stored here in my media folder. So I just included it in my project. You could do this the exact same way if you have standardized documents. I got the document in memory here. I got the values, and then I just call this method convert form to PDF. I pass in the document in memory. I pass in the values, and it converts out the converted document. Then what I did is I did the options if there was the watermark or the overlay text. So I jump into a submethod here. Again, I had the watermark image already stored here in my project. You could do the same, and you could deploy it this way as well, or you could get it from an external URL. But I just got that image in memory, and there's some options here when you add the watermark about the location, etc. But basically, you just need the document in memory and the image in memory, and then you get returned back the watermarked PDF. It's the same for the overlay. So when I had overlay text, I called this method down here, and again, using the PDF plugin, I add the overlay text. I need the document in memory, the overlay text that I want to add, which I captured in that user input, and then some information like location, font size, color, etc. So you have some flexibility there. So those are how I added those overlays. Finally, you'll notice that I was doing this once per record, so I call this fill form method every iteration, and then at the end I also combined it. So I called this is from the first example, and then I got back the combined document there, and I added the number pages, which is another method you can call. So it will actually write the page numbers in to the document. And then finally, I showed it in my preview where I had that component, which you can embed on a form to preview. Okay, for the third example, I want to talk about how to encrypt a PDF. So there's a lot of use cases for this. I know that there's some standard hospital forms sometimes that need to be filled out. They have patient data on that in North America and US. You have laws requiring sensitivity about medical data, personal medical data. So if you're going to send a PDF for that, it has to be encrypted and password protected, etc. Same might be for financial data. So that's the use case. I want to take a PDF and I want to encrypt it. And there's some options too with like what permissions you want to put. So we'll just start with the file upload. And I'll just grab one of these PDFs again. You can see that I get the thumbnail preview here, and we'll talk about that. I haven't gone into the thumbnail example yet. We have the thumbnail preview here. There's the owner password, which is like the full access password. I'll put ABC for that. I'm using password fields so you can't see it. And then I'll put 1, 2, 3 for the user password. That's who's going to use the document and get the assigned permissions. So from there, I want to encrypt this. And instead of doing a preview, I did it as a file download because I think that's a better example for this one. So when I click on the downloaded, it will open up in my browser, but my browser, recognizing that it's a protected document, will request the password. And when I put in the user password, I can see the document. Now I want to take that example a little bit further, and what I'll do is I'm going to upload the same fill-in form that I used in a prior example, and you can see that there's the preview of that form, and you can see that I've selected the option to fill in form fields. What I want to do is disable that option and encrypt it. And now when I put in the user password, Coming into the example PDF protect form code, and I want to go to a method here, encrypt. And basically, this is one line of code. You call the PDF output plugin, and you call the encrypt method. And basically, you take the file that was uploaded in memory, the owner password and the user password are required, and then there's all the options that I have right there. And that will return back the encrypted document as a byte array. So you have it in memory, and then you can do with it what you want. In this case, I didn't show the preview. I just used the file plugin here to write file, which in a web client will trigger the download. So that it's one line of code to then send that down to the user. Basically, all these options are what the user will have permission to do, and what they won't have permission to do, and whether or not they can, if they open it up in Adobe Acrobat or something, they start to try to copy things out of it, or that sort of thing, then they can be restricted from doing that. There's even whether or not to allow screen readers for accessibility, that sort of thing. So those are all the options, but the most basic one where if you don't have the options is just whether or not they can access the file, and for that all you need is the owner password and the user password, and then you can do that and mail it as an attachment or whatever you need to do. I also want to show how the thumbnail image was generated. You can see on files upload, which is the callback when the upload gets handled. Just one line of code I call scopes.example PDF. That's a scope I put for just this example, get thumbnail image. This was the kind of the new development in the world of PDF integrations in Servoy. A week ago, someone asked, how do you get a thumbnail image? I looked at our PDF plugin and said, well, we really can't do that, but I know it's possible. I wrote a little scope to be able to do that, and it gets a thumbnail of the first page or any page and returns it as an image in memory. That's something that we're going to add to the standard PDF plugin in the next release. So I wanted to share that with you because this came up as a requirement. It was pretty easy to do, so I did a sort of a little proof of concept for this webinar, and then we can add that back into the product. And that's how the thumbnail was retrieved. If you want to do that today, I did that with an Apache library. This is what the code looks like. But again, don't be scared of this code. It does a little bit of Java under the hood. You don't ever have to write Java in Servoy. We provide high-level JavaScript APIs, and this will be available as a one-liner to get the thumbnail image for a PDF page. I think that concludes all of our demos. So why don't we go back to the slide deck and do an overview, and then we'll take some questions. The first example, we showed how to combine PDFs, and this is ideal for taking several documents, putting them together. You can number the pages, you can send it as a mail attachment, whatever. And that's one line of code on the PDF output plugin called Combine PDF Documents. And it takes as an argument an array of documents that are in memory. The next example I showed was how to merge data into the PDF fill-in forms. And for that, all you really need is an array of these name value pairs as a string. And then you can call the convert PDF form to PDF document, and it'll sort of flatten that document with those values in it. And you can do that for, I showed in an example, multiple records. You just have to do it in a for loop or something, and then you can use the prior example and combine them all. And that's what I did to get those 4 records for that one search into a single document. The other example we just saw was how to encrypt a document with a password and with some options. Really, all you need is the document that you want to encrypt, and then you just specify the owner password, which is like the master password, and the user password, which is the more restricted access. And then after that, you can specify some of those options with, can they select and copy out content? Can they make modifications to annotations on the PDF? Can screen readers for accessibility access it? Can they print it? All these options. The one that I meant to show was the fill-in form as well, something there not working. We also saw how to add a watermark image or a text overlay. Again, that's just one line of code with the PDF plugin. And for the watermark, you just specify the input image after the document, and it'll position it, and you can add location parameters to move it around. And I had to play with it a bit to get it to work. And I also had to scale the image, but once you do it once, it's fine. And if you don't have an image or you want to have it be data driven, then you can also do an overlay text and sort of slap that over top. And there's options there if you want to do it on the first page only or on every page. There's a little bit more flexibility that I didn't know. Sometimes people like to add a very light colored translucent watermark of their company seal too, almost like you would get on printed stationery. That's also an option or a use case for this. Finally, I didn't get too much into, we actually covered this in a webinar long ago when this component was new, was that PDF viewer. So in the first couple examples, the output, what I did instead of just downloading it and opening it in another browser tab or in Adobe Reader, I embedded it in the Servoy application. And that's a component you can put on you can put other stuff on a form next to it. I see a lot of people use this for in conjunction with BI tools. So they might use Jasper reports or something and run a report, and then they just preview the report right in the viewer. And then there's options in that viewer. I don't think I showed this, but if I jump in here to the example and I just run one of these and I show it in the previewer, excuse me, you get options here to download. You probably recognize this view here. Rotate it, download it, print it, zoom in, zoom out, go to full screen, that sort of thing. That all comes standard in that component as well. And that's available through the Servoy package manager. You could just bring that right into your developer environment and add it to a form. So I can see that we have some questions. I'm going to ask my colleague Jan Alleman to help me with that. And while we take questions, I'm going to leave up information for Servoy World. It is coming up now, just a few months away. It's going to be pretty exciting. We're doing a hackathon involving a charity to start the conference. That's a community hackathon. Everyone's invited and encouraged to participate. There's going to be an outing. There's 2 days of sessions, and we have some workshops for some real hands-on learning. They're half days. We're going to have 2 concurrent tracks, a morning session and an afternoon session in each track. On the website that's listed at the bottom of the slide is where we have more information about the sessions and the workshops. So please, if you haven't made your plans already, there's still room, I think, at the hotel and certainly in the conference. So go ahead and give a look at that website.